Mr. Irontrader, and this is Midday Trading. So take a look at some stocks here. First on the docket here, we have IONQ. Then we have PLTR, PLTR. We have Meta, Microsoft, and then we finish her out with old Tesla. All right, this video is for information purposes only, not recommendation by Sally Stock ETF. Please like, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Here we have IONQ. Okay, now my buddy Jet here, he likes to trade the hell out of this thing, and I can see why. It's a really nice, good money maker. All right. What do we have? Now, we can see here what we did is we had this a situation up here where we had made this high of 47.88. We retested it, couldn't do it, and tried to retest it again, couldn't do it, and then we had to sell off. Now, you notice that when it sold right on off here, it held that 208, and we put a nice bottoming tail in, okay, very, very nicely. Then when it popped up, we noticed that we closed all above this 100-day. So now you have to really respect that on the downside, all right? So what we're looking for, today we made a nice high. We made up at 40.75, okay? But what we're looking for is a close above this 40.19, okay? Close above it. Even though we made a higher high, we have to close above that key level 40.19. Now, if we can get above that, then we're looking for this 50-day at 41.51. That's going to be very, very key. Now, again, if we can get above that, then we'll come right to the top of this candle, looking at 43.50 level, and then we can work ourselves right up at these levels right here. You're looking at 44.64, and then we'll come up top of this candle. You're looking at 44.97. Then we have that retest at 46.82, and then we have a retest there at that 47.73, and then we come up all the way to the top of that candle, 47.88, and then we'll come all the way here to the top of there at that 48.92 level. Okay, but again, we have to get above that and close above that 21-day. Looked like she was ripping up nicely, but that 21-day like a brick wall. Again, watch that 21-day, watch that 50-day. We can get a close above that. We just follow the candles up to get a possible retest of that 46.82 level. Now, here on the downside, you really watch it is this 8-day, 38.74. Very, very key. If that's lost, we'll come to yesterday's low at 38.53. And then we come over to the top of that candle, 37.41. And then here's the big boy that you're watching is that 37.04 level. And then we have this 200-day at 38.84, which lines up pretty nice with the 34.77 level, which was the bottom of that candle. Okay, so right now this chart is looking very, very nice because we had this bottoming tail and we held that nice key 200-day and we held that 100-day on a closing basis. Very, very nice chart. But again, you can see here how we have this sideways action kind of situation. We have a high, a little bit lower high, lower high, lower high, and now we're coming down here, okay? So just be a little bit careful. Now, again, if you can break out of this bad boy, okay, all the way at that 48.92 level, you got a nice good retest there all the way up to that 54.74 level, right? Now, we look at the RSI, you're only sitting at 49. That's got plenty of room to run, and it never got to an oversold condition, even though we came all the way down. It never did, which is nice. And then we have this green. It's just like a sideways kind of an action. All right. So right now, you got to watch and respect that 21-day on the upside. Very, very key. Respect that 8-day on the downside. That's going to be very, very key. And then if that's lost, you have to respect that 100-day because it held how many times here nicely in the past. Okay. All right. Let's take a look here now at Palantir. Here we have Palantir. Now, this was a really good high-flying stock. Look at this, a bad boy. All the way here from the bottom, you're looking at that 66.12 all the way to 190. Look at that, all right? Now, you can see here how we had this bought condition, came right on down. So always watch that. A lot of times it can stay overbought, but if it doesn't, once you start cracking below, this is kind of like what happens. Now, we put this bottoming tail in there, got it all the way down to 142.34, but you notice that it closed back above that 50-day. Very nice. Now, look at this 50-day. Okay, this is 5 days in a row, so respect that 50-day on the downside. Now, if we lose that 154.48, then we want to do is we want to come to the bottom of this candle. You look at 151.77. We'll come to the bottom at 149.37 level, and then we're going to do this retest there at that 142.34, and then possibly that 100-day at 134.29. Now, the upside, you can see here how this 8-day, look at that, okay? Now, the 8-day is going to be very strong, 162.20. If we can get above that, we'll come to the top of this candle, 163.20, and then we come up here to that 21-day, you're looking at 168.70 level. Okay, now you can see here on these earnings, we gapped up, but now that gap is all nice and filled. Okay, so we don't have to worry about that. What you really have to look at and be concerned about is this 8-day. That's going to be very, very strong resistance, 162.22, and then that 21-day. Now, again, if we can start breaking above all that, then we just come to the top there, 172.30 would come up there. At 177.90, we just follow right back up here, 180 flat. And then we have 185.33, and then your big retest, 190. Correct that? You're going to go to that 200 level. All right. So bottom line, this is what we want to watch on this. We want to watch that on the upside is that 8-day. You crack above that, then we want to watch that 21-day. That's going to be very, very strong resistance. Downside, we want to watch that that key 50-day, 154.48, and we want to watch that retest of 142.34. So let's just see how this all shakes out. We just have sideways action. Now, we're only sitting here at 47. That's got plenty of room to run. The green is below your red, but that doesn't say that can't curl up. But you can see what happens when that green crosses that red, shows that momentum to the downside, and that's what happened. But I really like when you see these bottoming tails and you see that 50-day holding. Very nice. I think a matter of time before we get back above that 8-day and right back above that 21 SMA. All right, let's take a look here now at Meta. Meta, very, very high flyer. Okay, so let's see what we got. Here we are. Now, we had this, couldn't get through that 796 level, but when it says when you say run up to 500, it never really gets there. It always comes just a hair short, all right? So, but what we have is, I always just want to point this out to you, is we look at the bottom of this candle, that's at 731 level. Okay, now that's the gap now, and then top of this candle is at 708.50. There's your fill. So we still have a gap in a fill situation. Yeah, there's plenty of them right down there, right down there, right down there. But once it starts, if we lose the 50-day and the price channel, 100-day, 200-day, then we can start looking at all those gaps. But right now, what we're really watching is on the downside is we're watching this key 50 SMA, 732.22. We have to hold that like we are here in the past. Now you can see how it ran up. But look at this 8-day now crossed over that 21-day. That's always provides very, very strong resistance, okay? So on the downside, this is what you're watching, is that 732.22. Then we want to come right to the top of this candle. That's 708. There's your gap fill. And then we have the retest of the price channel at 691. Then we have your 100-day, okay? And then we have your 200 SMA, all right? Very, very easy trade going on. Now, again, if you look all the way down here, we can come to the bottom there, 621.03. If we start losing that, okay, there's your gap. And then we look to the top of that candle at that 606.97, gap and fill. Now, right here, we look at here, 570, there's your gap. Another fill is that 549, okay, gap and a fill. And then all the way down here again, 516.52, and then up here is 506.88, gap and fill. Okay, so there's a lot of support levels and a lot of targets, okay, if you start losing all these simple moving averages, okay? Now, on the upside, this is what you want to watch, is you want to watch this key 8-day, that's 756.44, and then we want to watch that 21-day at 758. That's going to be very, very strong resistance. However, we get above that, we can come right to the top of this candle here. You're looking at 767.17. We come to the top there at that 775.81. Now, we want to look to the bottom of this candle because that's 780.82. So we have a gap and a fill, okay? And then what we want to do is look to the left of the chart at 784.75, and then we want to look to that 796 is your retest. So always look at the gaps and the fills, because a lot of times what it does, it'll come right into the gap. And then it does is pull down. Once it starts getting into the gap, then it'll fill the gap, and then we can maybe take that bad boy higher. But right now, what you're watching is that 8-day, okay, on the upside, that 21-day on the upside. Very, very crucial. On the downside, we're watching that key 50-day because it's held here nicely in the past. That's where we're watching. Now, again, if lost, we look to the gap fill, and then we look to the old price channel. Now, we're only sitting here at 51. That could go either way. The green is below your red, but we just have almost like a sideways action, and we're kind of like a creeping up kind of a situation. So let's just see how that all shakes out. All right, let's take a look here now at Microsoft. Microsoft had one hell of a run, okay? This was the earnings, okay? It gapped up, and it kept right on rolling. Another earnings, okay, gapped up, and then we put that big red topping tail candle at 555.4945, okay? Now you can see here where this 8-day crossed the 21-day. Now it's looking across the 50-day, and that's not a good look, okay? That's really just not a good look. So what we're really watching is this price channel right now on the downside is at 502.41. If we start losing that, then we just come over here to the bottom of that candle, okay? You're looking at 500 flat, okay? And then we're looking to the bottom of this candle, okay? Looking at 494, and then we just bring these price channels right across, okay? You got 488 level. All right, then we just come right on down, okay? You got 472 level, and then we just keep right on rolling at 466. But right here is going to be the key target. It's going to be that 466.19. But again, we have to lose this that 50-day and that price channel on a closing basis. Then we have a nice big target at the 100-day and at that 200 SMA. Now you can see how strong that was, but it was really like an overbought condition, and it just eased up and held that 8-day and 21-day all the way up. But once you start losing that, and then this is what happens. But this is nowhere near 41 oversold yet. This could come way down the same way with the MACD. Okay, so this could come way down. Look where we are down there. Okay, see, like this right here, this level, yes. Okay, this was way oversold. But this here is not. So you got to be just a little bit cautious. Now, on the upside, we're watching is 506.65. That's your 50-day. Then we'll be watching that 8-day at 508. Now, we can get above all that. You're looking right here for that 21-day at 518. All right. That's what we're looking at. But you got a lot of strong resistance, the 50-day, the 8-day, 21-day. We get above that, then we can just start marching the candles up. Okay, you got 526 level. We come all the way up here. You got 532. We'll come up to this level at that 531 level, and then we can retest that 555 level. Okay, but right now, this here has such a dramatic run. A little bit of rest in the stock is not going to be hurting it. Okay, let's take a look here now at Tesla. Here we have Tesla. Now, again, let's see what we got here. Okay, so we have this big sideways kind of an action, and right there is what we're looking for. We're looking at the top of that candle at that 348.98. Now, you can see here where we made a little bit higher, 349.53. Today, we had 349.14 level. Now, Tesla is I don't understand this kind of a thinking. Remember, these subsidies of $7,500 is going to run out here on the end of this month. Okay, so there is no more $7,500. What they did with this Cybertruck, now you couldn't sell the Cybertruck for $100,000. Okay, that's the one that's fully loaded. Okay, so now they raised the price up to $115,000. Okay, but if you take the subsidies off of there, I don't know what the end game is going to be. Now, I think this time people are probably rushing in to get with the subsidies. I want to get the car and all that kind of stuff. So their numbers probably won't be that bad this time. But going forward, I don't see it. But again, this is also an AI trade. So this is like a, a meme stock. So again, a lot of that stuff doesn't really kind of like a matter situation. But it does to me if you're looking at, even any kind of a fundamentals at all. I just don't see it on this kind of a chart. Okay, but here's what we're looking for, is we're looking right for it at 149.53. Now, if we can crack above that, all we do is bring this price channel across, and we're looking right there at 357.49. Okay, so that's your first one, 349.53. Then right there, okay, 357.54, and then we're going to come right to the top of that candle at 367.71. Okay, that's going to be your levels. Now, if we keep right on going above here. Okay, what we do is we just keep following that bad boy up there. You got 380 level. Okay, we come over there. We have this gap at 394. Then we want to look to the bottom of that candle at that 401. Okay, gap, fill, and then we look to the top of that candle at 412 level. And then we come up there at 419.99. Then we just come right on top of there at 439.74. Bring this across at 465. And then we come up to that 488.54 level. But again, we have this sideways action. But a lot of times when you have this sideways action, you build energy. So this could either blast off up, or you could blast on down. But it looks like it wants to kind of crack to the upside here. Now, on the downside, really what you're watching is all these simple moving averages. Okay, that's the 8-day, 333.87. And then we're looking at that 200 SMA, 329 level. Looking at the 326.99 level. And then we're looking at that 50-day at 322.43. Now, we start losing that, and we just come right to the bottom of this candle. You're looking at 319. We'll come down to the bottom there at 314, and then we'll look at the 100-day, which has been holding very nicely, as you can see in the past, 309. Then we have your retest at 297.82. So it just looks like it just wants to break out. If it can, then what we can do is just follow these levels and roll all the way on up. Now, what we have here on the RSI, you're only sitting at 60. That's really, that plenty of room to run. We have this sideways action. I think this is looking for a catalyst, either to crank up or crank down. But just be a little bit careful, because of those subsidies that $7,500 is coming off. Who's going to buy the car? Who's going to buy the vehicle? But raising prices, that don't make a whole lot of sense to me. Okay, so we've got to see how this all going to shape up. Remember, this is a meme stock. It doesn't really trade like an auto stock, like a GM or Ford or Chrysler or something. It just doesn't do that. You know what I'm saying? So always remember that any kind of a little bit of information, any kind of a little bit of this will send this stock much higher. Okay, that's what I got for you. I'll be back here when the pick close, and we'll take a look here at what are we going to take a look at? Oh yeah, we'll take a look here at Bitcoin, and then we're going to throw that ETHU Ethereum. That's the ETF. We'll throw that in there now at the end of the day, and then we're going to look at gold, silver, crude oil, natural gas, and we'll look at the indexes, which right now are pretty much overall kind of flat, waiting on Nvidia's numbers. All right, trade what's in front of you. Now what you want.